is WhatGear Reviews, and this is the Poco F2 Pro, a follow-up to the incredibly hyped Poco phone from 2018. At the time of this video, unfortunately, this phone isn't available in the US, but you can pick it up in the UK now. And if you really wanted to get one of these out there in the States, you could always import it. But check this out. This phone comes in at less than £500, and actually it has a better system on chip than all of the S20 range that we have available here in Europe. And I'll get back into that later on in the video. So this phone isn't quite the same as the Poco phone that was released in 2018. Basically what they did back then was try to pack in as much high-end specs for as low a cost as possible, resulting in a phone that was under £300. Now they've raised the game and raised the bar a bit, so of course the price has raised as well. But that's not a bad thing, and I'm about to tell you why. Let's get into it. The Poco F2 Pro features a lot of specs that we expect to see in high-end phones, and that's probably why they call this version the Pro. And when you look at these specs on paper and the features on paper, the Poco F2 Pro looks like a powerful all-rounder, and it really is. So when you pick this thing up, it immediately feels like a premium device. It's put together really nicely, and the weight adds to that premium feel. And of course, it's a full metal body and glass front and back, and this emerald color on this one just looks so awesome. So not only does this look and feel awesome, it's got a certain amount of swag to it as well. Let me show you. So check out this nice little red accent on the power button. That's really cool. And check this out. On the top of the device, we have an IR blaster for controlling your TVs, your sound bars, your air conditioning, anything that has a remote control basically. And check this out. One of my favorites, a headphone jack. And also on the top of this phone is a pop-up camera with these awesome LEDs and sound effects that you can customize. And to be honest with you, this might be the nicest implementation of a pop-up camera that I've ever seen. But here's the real star attraction when it comes to this device. It's the huge AMOLED full screen corner-to-corner display with no notch.
The notch, right.
And there's so many phones out there right now with notches and cutouts. And it's really great to see that Poco are standing out from the crowd with a device with no notch. And I know people complained about pop-up cameras, not because they were breaking, but because they were scared they were going to break. And I've had a few phones with pop-up cameras and none of them have ever broken on me. Fingers crossed I didn't just jinx myself. But anyway, so far so good with this phone. So this is a 6.67 inch 1080p AMOLED HDR10 Plus certified screen. So it's certainly a formidable screen on this device. It is 60 Hz though, and I'm sure Poco could have made it a higher refresh rate, but of course that would have then been reflected in the price, and they probably put a lot of thought into this. Not only would it cost more to do it, but it'll also drain on the battery a bit more. Now check this out, it's got under display optical fingerprint reader. And in previous years, this kind of technology was reserved for phones that were like £700 or more. So to see this on a device at less than £500 is really great. And honestly, if I didn't know the price of this phone and someone just handed it to me, I'd probably assume this was an £800 or £900 phone. But when you take a look at the spec sheet, you kind of see where they have saved the money. So of course, that higher refresh rate display, but there's also no wireless charging in here and no official IP water resistance rating. So the water resistance thing, that is just a case of them paying a company for them to test it and then give it that certification. And that's not to say they haven't made any effort of making this water resistant. So I'm pretty confident this will be splash proof. On the wireless charging side of things, for me, it's not a big deal. For some of you guys that have already got wireless chargers and stuff like that, it might be a problem. But to be honest, with the charger that comes with this, it charges so fast. I think realistically, you could live without wireless charger. Now, with that said, let's talk about some of the awesome features that this has that some of the flagship devices like the Samsung Galaxy S20s don't have. So some of you might already be familiar with the Samsung Galaxy Exynos 990 system on chip. That's the one that they're using in the phones out here in the UK when it comes to the Galaxy S20 lineup. So long story short, there are versions of the S20 range with the Snapdragon 865, and those ones are way better. And guess what? The Poco F2 Pro has the Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 system on chip, which is 5G by the way. So the reality is, here in Europe, this has a better chipset than a £1,000 Samsung phone. So with this Snapdragon system on chip, of course you're going to get that 5G that I already mentioned. You're also going to get Wi-Fi 6 speeds as well. So essentially you're going to get amazingly fast gigabit speeds from this device. And not only that, you combine that with the onboard ROM, which is also a flagship level UFS 3.1, which means very rapid read and write speeds too. Now check this one out. Poco have created this massive, nearly 3 centimeter squared vapor cooling chamber inside the Poco F2 Pro, which includes sheets of graphene and graphite. And basically what this thing is going to do is cool the chipset down, which means less performance throttling when under heavy use. And this is quite a unique one. This phone has a 360-degree light sensing capability, so it can adapt to its surrounding and adjust the screen brightness according to where you are. And this will result again in the phone being more power efficient than most of the flagships that are out there when it comes to adaptive screen displays. And when you factor in that this is a 1080p OLED screen and not a Quad HD high refresh rate screen, the battery performance is going to be even better. And that brings me on to the next thing, the battery on the Poco F2 Pro. It's a massive 4,700 milliamp hour battery, which is bigger than the OnePlus equivalent and also bigger than the S20 Plus devices as well. So it's a pretty big battery on this thing. And you combine that battery with that 30-watt fast charger that I mentioned earlier in the box, and this phone is ticking so many of those boxes that we expect from a flagship device. Now let's talk about the camera. This phone has a quad camera array, 64 megapixel primary sensor. It can shoot 8K video. And all of that sounds great and impressive, but you really need to see what it can do. And I'm actually in the process of making a camera comparison video with this phone. So make sure you're subscribed, turn on the bell notifications so that you don't miss that video if you really want to see what these shooters can do. And having used this for a long time, one of the camera features that I really love here is the tele macro mode. It is using the 5 megapixel shooter and the results are some of the most impressive macro shots I've seen this year to date. It's also really nice to see an ultra wide lens in there. I know Google left out an ultra wide on their latest device, which is just... So there's loads more stuff I could tell you about this phone right now, but I think I'm going to do a series of videos for you. So if there's anything you want to know about in particular, let me know in the comments below. So I just want to pause here for a minute and ask you guys a question. If somebody literally gave you £1,000 and said, go buy a flagship phone, and you could do anything you wanted with that money, the only thing you had to do is pick up a phone with good specs, would you spend all of the £1,000 and just get a device, or would you buy something like this and put the other 500 quid in your pocket? Let me know. So this is a £500 flagship phone with flagship specs, flagship build, really great cameras that we're about to look into in a bit more depth in the next video. That thumbnail is on screen right now. If you're looking for where to buy this device, there'll be links below this video. If you enjoyed this one, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. And if you just subscribed, you're now one of the finest subscribers known to man. See you in the next one. Don't be late.